Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Just out of curiosity, how many of you like to actually listen to the whining of your mini quad in your DVR? Or how about in a headphone while you're flying? Well, if the answer is no to both of those things, would you prefer to have ambient audio? You can hear what's going on around you, you can probably hear your quad, hear your buddies, hear you. I know I would. I know it's way more useful. Well, if that's something you are interested in, stick around, because I'm going to show you how to add ambient audio to just about any Fatshark style receiver, because it's definitely more better.
Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. A while back I showed everybody how to add an ambient microphone to the Immersion RC PowerPlay, and if you have one of these, I really recommend giving that a shot. It's a super easy mod. I'll put a link to how to do that right about there. But not everybody has this thing. No, not everybody likes this. I've come up with a way to add an ambient microphone to the TBS Fusion and the Immersion RC Rapid Fire video receiver modules. And honestly, you could do this to just about any video receiver module. They'll work with any goggle that would normally receive quad audio and has a DVR. Obviously, if you don't have a DVR, then not really a whole lot of point to this. So I'm going to show you how to add an ambient mic to either one of these modules. And the star of the show is going to be this little guy here. Again, the Rush Racing Auto Gain Control microphone. This little guy is super tiny, very easy to tuck away in just about anywhere, but it does need 5 volts to function. So this is actually a pretty easy mod, and I'm surprised I haven't seen too many more people out there doing this. Actually, not that I looked, but I didn't see anybody else who did it. And the reason I started doing this is because of these. These have a microphone in. I tried 6 different microphones and none of them work. Just plain don't work. There's something weird about the way that Orca did the connection in here for the microphone. A lot of people say that it's not even hooked up. Okay, whatever. I found a solution, because the Orcas do record onboard audio out of the video receiver module. So I just fed in the ambient microphone to the module. So the process is different for both of these. They're pretty close to the same. This one's a little more involved because the Immersion RC Rapid Fire does have the ability to disable the quad audio via software, whereas this does not have that option, or it doesn't have it yet. I really hope they do add that option, because that'll make this an even easier modification. But let's start with the Immersion RC Rapid Fire. Okay, first thing we're going to do is separate these 2 boards. So get yourself a small screwdriver and just pop this little guy off of the SMA there. And we need to remove this little black bracket. Hopefully you don't break it, because it is unbelievably fragile for some reason. And once we get that out of the way, go. We can separate these 2 pieces right there. Okay. So that's how the 2 boards come apart. The other thing we need to think about is where we're going to bury this little guy and the position of it. Ideally, I would like to get it as far forward and down as possible, but this module, there just isn't the space for it. So I'm thinking it's going to go right about there, which is right where all the connections need to be. It doesn't extend past the footprint of the module itself, so this is going to be probably the best place for it. So let's go ahead and separate these 2 boards and get ourselves prepped to install this. Alright, get yourself a couple pieces of really high gauge wire. I like to use old RunCam camera connectors. They always have really good silicone wire with them. Makes this job much easier. So let's go ahead and prep our microphone. So we're going to need power, ground, and audio. I really don't care about the color combinations here, but I will try to keep power and ground to kind of a universal standard here. Soldering iron is heated up. I run at 850 degrees. Nope, you're wrong, and no, I don't care. That's just for all you people that are giving me advice on how to solder. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's better than me, but I actually do have quite a bit of schooling on soldering itself. So if we look at the back of the board, we have 3 connections. We have ground, 5 volts, and audio. Go ahead and tin those pads up. Normally I do have myself way closer to the work, but I'm working way behind the camera. Ground, 5 volts, and audio. There we go. So that is our connections to our microphone. Now the way the pin layout is for the Fatshark bay is this is 5 volts, not connected, ground, audio, video, and then channel 3, 2, and 1. So we're going to need to get to this pin, and then these 2. So again, let's just double check our spacing of where we're going to put this little guy. Yep, it's going to go right on top like so. Thing we got to think about is conductivity. So I'm going to use a little bit of Kapton tape. Just going to encapsulate this in some Kapton tape while leaving the microphone element exposed. That shouldn't be a big deal. So we're also going to glue this sucker in place when we're done. Well, not really glue, but you know what I mean. So this Kapton tape is electrically insulative, and it doesn't burn at high heat. It just kind of chars. If you're in this hobby long enough, you're going to want to get some of this stuff. So let's go ahead and plan out our power and ground. A little fresh solder on this pin. So we're going to need power, ground, and 2 audios. And that's a good thing right there. That's what I want to do, is I want to bridge those 2 audio pins there. So I was either going to do it with a wire or do it with solder. Sometimes life works out. And solder your power wire. Okay. Power connection has been made. Route our ground wire to pin 3 here. And route out that audio wire here. Slide that audio wire around. There you go. Power, ground, and audio. Nice clean connections. And the last step is to secure this little guy in place. I'm going to use a little bit of VHB. It's made by the Scotch company. It's very high bond. This stuff is super sticky for electronics. If you're using it and you're attaching things directly to other things, be careful. This will, after it sets, it'll pull capacitors and SMD components off of the flight controllers and things like that you stick it to. It's very difficult to pull it back off of it. Attach 2 halves of our board. Looks like that's going to be in the way. We're going to move this back just a hair. Can't go all the way to the bottom with it. Okay, so the last thing you're going to need to do to this is you're going to have to modify this little bracket here. Just basically take out this section and this section here. Go ahead and just line it up and see how it fits. I recommend just taking your soldering iron, since it's probably still hot, just melt through there, take this little chunk out in the middle, and then just trim it up with a set of precision flush cuts until you make a big enough space for your microphone assembly. Be very careful with this little bracket because it does break very easily. There we go. Packed right in there. And in the end, I would also probably put a little dab of E6000 here on the corners just to hold everything together. So with this little guy, all you have to do is come over to audio and set it to off. And that will disable the incoming audio from your VTX. It'll keep it from coming out of these pins. Now, depending on the goggle you're using, there's plenty of different places you could stick this microphone. You could run it outside of the goggles. You could do whatever you want with it. Heck, you could even hook up a 3.5mm headphone jack and use any external mic, a lav mic, however you want to do it, if this is something you want to do. This modification is the same sort of thing on the TBS Fusion. Unfortunately, the Fusion doesn't have a way to disable the incoming audio from the quad before it comes out of the audio pins to your module bay inside your goggles or whatever. So we have to physically disable it by removing a pin. The Fusion module, just like the TBS, the Fusion module, just like the rapid fire two boards, they just peel apart. This one's a little different. There is a heat transfer pad inside of here, so you have to be a little careful while you wiggle this little guy apart. And there is a little bit of tape on the underside here. So we can set this aside. We're not going to need that. As you can see, I put my microphone here in the corner, just like in the rapid fire module. So go up to the main control board. What we need to do is we need to remove this pin here. If you're looking at the board with the control button in the bottom right, it is 2 pins down and 2 to the right. 1, 2, 1, 2. And to remove this pin, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is get a brother, sister, cousin, wife, whoever, a vise, a third set of hands, because somebody's gonna need to hold this guy nice and tight. You're gonna need to put a pair of tweezers on the pin that you're trying to remove, and stick your soldering iron on the back side of the pin you're trying to remove. While pushing with this, with the soldering iron, and pulling with the tweezers, that pin will slide right out of this block here. Very easy to do. You just have to do it, but it does kind of require a third hand, a vise, something to hold this still while you're pushing and pulling against it. The beauty of this is, if you needed to restore this module to its original configuration, save that pin, you stick it back in the hole, stick your soldering iron on the back side of it, and push it until it's flush, and it'll make that connection back all over again. And then assembly is the reverse of disassembly. Just put the two halves back together, squish her down, and that is good to go. Now, a couple things to note about this modification. As far as hooking up to Fatsharks, there's really nothing you need to do besides disabling audio on this guy in the settings. Turn on your DVR and you'll be just fine. Now with the Orcas, it's a little different. In the Orcas, there's a menu setting for microphone audio and VTX audio. Remember, our ambient audio is going to be coming from VTX audio from now on. So you're going to need to have that turned up to roughly 60 or 70, speaking in a normal tone and volume. Comes out pretty good, and you can turn your microphone volume all the way down to 10. I believe if you turn it to 0, it'll disable both. It's kind of a firmware bug. It may get hammered out in the future, but at the time of recording this, that is how that works. All right, folks, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking this out. If you appreciate me sacrificing my own equipment to try to better yours, like and subscribe, please. I really appreciate it. Check out my Patreon page. I do monthly contests over there for some gear, and check out my Etsy page. I really appreciate it. If you're planning on buying anything from Banggood, GetFPV, or Amazon, check out the links down in the video description. All those things help me out tremendously. All right, folks, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking us out. Keep flying and stay safe.